Hey guys, it's Jeff from Adventure Wagon. I wanted to do a quick little video to give you a technique to work around something that we've been seeing with these Sprinter vans coming from the factory. We've noticed that these ceiling ribs are coming from the Mercedes factory slightly inconsistent in how they're centered in the van. It's not a big deal for the van itself, but traditionally our ceiling bracing systems, otherwise known as the Speedstruts, have relied on these ceiling ribs being perfectly centered. Now that we're seeing that they're not always perfectly centered, it sort of throws off the placement of our parts. So first thing you want to do is be able to identify, the problem. And the way you identify it is actually by these little center holes here against the corrugation of the roof. This should be perfectly centered. If those are offset from each other, you've probably got ceiling ribs that aren't perfectly centered. So what you need to do is actually measure for the true dead center of your ceiling rib. And the way we're going to do that is actually measuring from this nice hard edge right here, where this piece comes in and connects to the ceiling rib itself. You're going to measure from this piece on one side of the van to the other one over here. You're going to take that measurement and cut it in half. All right, so this particular measurement happens to be 20 3/4 to the dead center of this rib. And I marked the dead center of this rib, and I made sure I kind of came up the side a little bit and came down the bottom. All right. Now, traditionally, what we would do is use there's a centering tool that holds the Speedstrut assembly in place, and it's supposed to get the perfect placement and hold it in place while you're drilling and setting rivets. Now, what we're going to do is actually set this center support bracket first. So the 144, you're going to get one of these pieces, and there's going to be a piece of L-track that's attached to this when it's all said and done. And the L-track is going to come off the edges a little bit. Now, I marked the actual dead center of this piece too. So it's another reference line, pretty much right dead center through that middle hole. And I'm holding it in place and lining that line up against the center mark that I made on this ceiling rib. And then you can come through here and sort of temporarily set this for now with one of your a few of your self-tapping screws, 4 or something like that, through these holes. You're going to end up taking those out and setting rivets in here. And then you're going to take your Speedstrut, which again will have the L-track attached to it when you're doing this. You have L-track attached to this, L-track attached to this. You're going to butt the L-track edge of this piece right up against the end of this piece. All right. And then you're going to actually mark the outside edge of this with a Sharpie on sort of this bottom plane of your rib. So you're going to mark it here. And that's going to give you what your measurement is from dead center to the outside edge of your Speedstrut assembly on this rib, to give you something to transfer to. I would do 2 other ribs. So then I would probably move 2 ribs back, take this piece down, and repeat that process on the next rib back. And then I would do the same thing up here and also repeat it on the other side of the van with the other Speedstrut assembly. And remember, you're not setting anything permanently while you're doing this. You're just getting reference points to make sure that your Speedstruts are always perfectly distanced, from the center of the van in either direction and perfectly parallel running down the van.